Hi, good morning, and welcome back to the Cakers channel. It has been an amazing journey sharing my cake baking and decorating with you guys, and I could not have asked for a more supportive community. In this video, we're going to be answering a few questions that I'm commonly asked. So I decided to do it here so that the record will be saved and people can revisit it as needed and get the most use out of this amazing content. Before I go any further, my name is Trevon and I'm a Jamaican. I live in the UK and I make amazing custom cakes for all occasion. I also teach other people that love baking how to bake and make beautiful cakes and start their own at-home cake baking business. It is something that I really enjoy doing, and I feel super blessed to be able to do this. So this afternoon we had an amazing session over Zoom with my WhatsApp support group, and there were quite a few questions in the group that I decided to have a meeting with everybody, answer the questions once and for all so that everyone can benefit from the answers of these questions instead of just the individual person that needs the answer. And it was well received and everyone was super happy. So I'm going to be going through all of the questions that we discussed today, share these answers with you guys so you can know what to do if you're having to deal with these situations. Before we go any further, please remember to like this video, share with your friends, and make sure you are subscribed for more amazing content. The first thing we discussed was traveling with a cake. Things you need to do and how you need to prepare your cake in order to make a journey with it. For example, you get a cake order and you're having to deliver the cake 1 hour to 2 hours away, or even 3 sometimes. It doesn't matter the distance. But how to prepare your cake for delivery. These are some tips. They are not exhaustive. So there are other things that you can do to make sure that your cake is safe for a journey. But these are just a few of the pointers that we discussed in the session today. The first thing you need to do from the moment you're building your cake, stacking your cake layers and everything, you need to consider the journey in mind. So think about the distance that the cake will have to go and how you're going to protect the cake on that journey. So the first thing is, if you're ever going above 3 layers in height with your cakes, please convert to the double barrel method. The double barrel method of cake design is, I have a little notebook here. I'll just do a little sketch for you so you understand what I mean when I say the double barrel method. So this is layer 1. Sorry about my crappy writing. So layer 1, layer 2. So before you put the 3rd layer on, you're going to put a little cake card or a cake board between layer 2 and layer 3. And my pen decided to stop. Okay, it's because of how I'm holding it. So before you put the 3rd layer on, you need to put some internal support in these 2 layers. So these are called dowels. You can use wooden dowels or jumbo straws like milkshake straws. You need to put some internal support inside these 2 layers to hold the cake card, and then you put your next 2 layers of cakes on. So this is what the double barrel method looks like. You can also, for extra stability, insert a center dowel into the cake. This center dowel will help the cake to stay in place and not move during transit. Another thing that you can do to ensure that your cake is really stable is when you fill your cake, so you can fill your cakes with like a buttercream filling or whatever filling your client requested. However, you can crumb coat your cake with a chocolate ganache. Chocolate ganache is very sturdy, it dries hard, it's very stable, and it will not move during transport. So that will add an extra layer of security to your cakes whenever you're transporting them. When you're done with the chocolate ganache crumb coat, you can go ahead and apply your buttercream to your cake to do your final design. So those are a few tips. Another thing that you can do for your cakes before transporting them is pop them in the before you even put them in the freezer. Make sure if you're going to be traveling with a cake, you make it at least a day in advance. So you make it so it have at least a full night in the refrigerator so that everything sets up well. If your cake doesn't get enough time in the fridge to firm up and set up well, it's not very stable and things will start shifting once you start moving with that cake. So make your cakes a little bit in advance and give them time to set. Before you start your journey, pop your cakes in the freezer for like 30 minutes just for the cake to firm up. And that again is dependent on the distance that you're going with the cake. If you're taking like a 30 minutes drive with the cake, you maybe don't have to do this step. But if you're going any further than that, pop the cake in the freezer for like 30 minutes so the cake is very firm before you start your journey. Before you put your cakes in the car, make sure that you put your air conditioner on and your car is very nice and cool. Pop the windows up, turn the car on, 10-15 minutes. Make sure the car is very nice and cool before you put your cakes in the car. Always travel with your cakes on a flat surface. I recommend the boot of the car, or you push back the front passenger seat and that little footrest there, you put something nice and clean there, put down a non-slip mat so your cake don't move, and you put your cake down there. You get a chance to glance at it as you're driving and you see what's happening to the cake, and the cake is right beside you in the car on a flat surface. Another very important thing that a lot of people tend to forget sometimes is to plan their route. Plan your journey ahead of time. You don't want on the day you realize that there are diversions or the route is longer than you expected it to be, or there were certain streets that you need to avoid because of certain hills and routes that the cake will not be able to manage. So plan your trip ahead of time so you know where you're going, where you will be driving, and how to navigate the streets while you're going with your cake. Reach out to the venue if you're delivering to a venue. Find out before you go with the cake, where are you going to park? Where are you going to unload the cake? Will there be things ready for you when you get there? Sort out all of that even before you think of making a journey with your cake. Another very, very important thing is always travel with a cake repair kit. It's not a set kit. You prepare it depending on the design of your cake and the things that you maybe need for your cake. So you can pop things in there like flowers, more buttercream, more dowels, some cake scraper, some piping tips, whatever it is, that just in case any accidents happen on the way. I don't mean like a physical car accident, like the cake shift a bit, or you're putting down the cake and something bounced one side of it. Things happen sometimes. Nothing always go to plan. So just be prepared just in case something happens. You can salvage what's left and make the best presentation possible. The last thing you want to do is to spoil someone's event. When someone reach out to you to book a cake with you, they trust you to come through for them. And if something happened and you don't come through, it's not going to be nice. So just have everything ready to fix your cake just in case something happens to it. So that's my little tip for traveling with a cake. The next bit we spoke about was applying fresh flowers to a cake. So if you're having fresh flowers on your cakes, bring the flowers with you to the venue and put them on the cake when you're at the venue. For me personally, I don't really... Sorry, an airplane is passing, so it's getting a little bit noisy. For me personally, I don't use a lot of fresh flowers on my cakes because there are a lot of rules going around with using fresh flowers on your cakes. You need to get certificates of their growth to find out if they were grown for, use on cakes, if they were introduced to any insecticides or pesticides and anything like that to make them unsafe to come in contact with your cake. So once you've gone through all of that and you're sure that your fresh flowers are safe for use on your cakes, you need to prep them the correct way, wrapping them with florist tape or dipping them in chocolate or whatever way you decide to make your flowers safe for cake. You do those things and make sure your flowers are safe for cake. But I advise you can't put the fresh flowers in the cake from overnight and put the cake in the fridge. Flowers need water and light and all of those things to stay alive and stay looking alive. If you put the fresh flowers in the fridge on the cake overnight, they're not going to be looking good tomorrow. So I advise you take the flowers with you and you pop them on the cake while you're at the venue. The next thing we spoke about is condensation on your cakes. This is a hot topic, worse for people in warmer climates. They suffer from condensation on their cakes a whole lot. Let me first explain to you what condensation is or what causes condensation. Condensation on your cakes happens when there is a sudden drastic shift between the temperatures of your cake. So if you quickly move your cakes from the freezer to the refrigerator, from the freezer to room temperature, then that's a massive change between temperatures. If you're in a warm climate, then the cake will get all confused and start sweating. So in order to prevent your cakes from sweating like that, you need to let your cakes slowly come to room temperature. So if they're in the freezer, you take them from the freezer and you pop them in the refrigerator. You let them stay in the refrigerator a bit and then you put them in a cool room. If you don't have a cool room, turn a fan on. If you have AC, pop the AC on. Make sure that the climate is very nice for the cake. So the cake slowly comes to room temperature and it doesn't happen suddenly. That causes the cake to sweat. If you try all you can and you still have issues with condensation, other things that you can do, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, is a manual airbrush kit where you can just pump, and the glitter or luster spray or anything comes out of the kit. You can fill that up with cornstarch. So basically, you're just dabbing or dusting cornstarch over your cake. The cornstarch will absorb the extra moisture from the cake, and the beautiful thing is that the cornstarch doesn't leave a taste on the cake, so it will not affect the taste or the texture of the cake. Don't bathe the cake in cornstarch. Don't put excessive amount of it on it, but small amount, and it will get rid of a lot of the condensation and make things a lot easier for you. The next thing we had a little chat about, cake toppers, like fondant toppers, or if you're making toppers from like edible prints and you want to put them on your cakes. I advise that you do these a little bit in advance, like 2 days, 3 days, they will harden. If you're just using fondant, add a bit of tylose powder, also known as CMC powder, to your fondant. The CMC powder helps your fondant to dry really hard, and that will give your fondant enough time to dry. It can stand on your cakes and look presentable, so you don't have a very thick layer of fondant behind your edible prints. If you're having like a last minute cake order or making some last minute cake toppers, you can roll out your fondant and then put your cake toppers in the oven. The oven will help them to go really, really hard. So my tip for this is preheat your oven at 100 degrees Celsius for like 5 minutes. Switch your oven off. You line a baking tray with some parchment paper, and then you put your fondant toppers on the parchment paper on the lined baking tray, and you pop them into that warm oven. You put them in the oven for like 10 minutes. Once you take them out of the oven, they will be feeling a little bit soft. Remember, they're going to be feeling soft, so don't push on them. Don't touch them too hard, else you will damage them. Once they sit out of the oven for like literally like 3-4 minutes and some cool air blow over them, they just go hard, suddenly go really, really hard. And you can use those as your cake toppers or your cupcake toppers. And that's a quick way about it. I have a short video on my YouTube channel showing you how I use that oven method to get my cake toppers really, really hard. So you can check that out as well. The next thing we spoke about was cake pricing. Pricing a cake is a hot topic, and there are a lot of discussions around pricing cakes. I'm going to have to do a whole new video going in depth and discussing pricing a cake, but I'm just going to highlight for you the key areas that you need to focus on whenever you're considering the price of your cakes. So you need to take into consideration the cost of ingredients. And when I say ingredients, everything from salt to everything that it takes for you to make that cake, all the ingredients that goes into the cake. And remember, when you're pricing up the ingredients for a cake, if you buy a pack of 1 kilogram flour and you only use 200 grams in a cake, you can't expect to charge one client for the whole kilogram bag of flour. So you charge for the ingredients based on how much you use in a particular cake. Consider things like your overhead, cost of running your business. What comes under your overhead? You're talking about your bills, your water, utility, gas, all of those. Your business insurance, because if you're running a business, you need to have some sort of insurance in place. And the fee for your insurance, it has to come from somewhere. So you need to factor that into the cost of your cakes as well. Another thing you need to take into consideration for your pricing is your hourly rate. A lot of people that bake from home, this is all that they do, and you need an income. So you need to factor in how much are you charging per hour to make a cake. My advice is, I know a lot of people are just starting out and they're just getting an understanding of, being self-employed and working for themselves, but pay yourself at least minimum wage. It makes no sense leaving the corporate world, coming home to work for yourself and still paying yourself less than minimum wage. So whichever country you're in, try to find out what the minimum wage is and pay yourself at least that per hour. As time goes by, as you get more confident, you learn more skills and you can offer more things, then you can always increase your hourly rate. The next big part is, if you start a business and you want your business to grow, you must charge a profit on all of your cakes. What you charge for your profits, it's up to you and how much you want to start with, but you can start from anywhere. I advise the moment you start your baking, you start charging a profit. If you practice it from early, it will become a part of you, and the more confident you become, you will be able to increase your profit margin on your cakes and have a more profitable business. This profit is, if your mixers break down, you can buy yourself another mixer and it's not coming from your pay, your hourly rates. If a trend is going around, for example, the heart cake trends just started recently, and you want to invest in some heart-shaped cake tins, then you'll have money from your business put aside to buy some excess cake tools to work with to make your business better. So the profit of the business is for business development. Your hourly rate is your money, your pay to do what you want to do with it. Okay, so don't be confused. Separate the business profit from your hourly rate. You need to also consider your packaging, everything that goes on your cake, from the cake board, the cake box, the ribbons that goes around the cake, everything, piping bags, everything that you use to make that cake a possibility, a reality. You need to factor it into the cost of your cake. It's a little bit difficult to start with. I know it's not easy, but if you sit down and take your time to work these things out, you will have a more profitable business. we spoke about having a contract in place for your business. And when I just started my cake baking business, like, I knew nothing about cake contracts and having a contract for your clients to sign and all of that. I started my baking back in Jamaica. I didn't have all of that in place. But moving to the UK, things are a lot different. And if you are not using contracts in your business, worse if you're offering cakes like wedding cakes and all of that, you need to have a contract in place. As I mentioned, wedding cakes, I do have this cute little cake beside me. You're maybe not seeing it clearly, but look at those stencil patterns. Absolutely beautiful. So yes, worse if you're offering like wedding cakes and all of that, make sure you have a contract in place so when people order cake from you, you can have something for them to sign to be sure that you know what they want, they know what they're going to be getting. So at the end of the day, you're safe and they're not disappointed. So it can seem a bit intimidating to start with, but just start somewhere. If you're just starting out and you don't have a contract in place, at minimum, you should try to communicate with your clients about their cakes via text message so you can have a record of what was said, they can have a record of what was said, and you can have something to reference back to just in case anything happened. Sometimes things happen, sometimes it doesn't, but if it does happen, you need to feel safe and have everything all sorted and ready to keep your business safe. So once you've communicated with your clients and you both have an agreement, they know what they ordered and you understand what is it that they want, it is your responsibility as a baker to send your client one final message outlining all the details of your conversation. So a photo reference of your cake if you have one, the cake flavor, the cake size, how many people the cake is going to be serving, any allergies that they discussed, any changes they want made to the cake, any names, so the name of the cake, the age of the person. You don't want to send the cake out and the incorrect name is on it or the incorrect age is on it. It does happen sometimes, things get mixed up sometimes, but as best as you can, please try to eliminate those. So once you have that last final message sent out to the client with everything that they requested based on their cake, then they can send a message back to you. Yes, that is correct. Or yes, that's exactly what I want. Those details are correct. So you can have something physical in your hand to say that you've explained to the client what is it that they'll be getting and they've responded to you agreeing that yes, that's what I ordered and that's what I'm expecting to get. At the end of the day, if anything happens, you'll have something to reference back to and you can easily rectify any situation. Those are the few questions that I have to go through today. Remember, if you have any questions, you can drop them down below in the comment section and I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. I hope that it was helpful. If you are a baker or if you have any knowledge about anything that we discussed in this video and you have any additional tips that will be helpful to viewers, please pop them in the comment section as well. I'd really appreciate that. Remember to like this video, share with your friends, and make sure you are subscribing to this YouTube channel for more cake baking and decorating tips. Until next time, keep on baking.